I have notes, because I can't do this without notes. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sharon McNary, Eric's stepmother. I don't like that title, and I don't think Eric nor I felt that way about each other. I was another mom, and he was another son. Today I'm speaking on behalf of his dad and myself. I did not know Eric as a child. Joe and I were married while Eric lived in Bloomington, Indiana. My first memories were of Joe and I traveling to Bloomington about once a month to see him. Each time we would go down, Eric was living in a different place. Maybe on someone's couch, or he had a whole basement to himself. He was always so kind and gentle, and seemed happy no matter the circumstances. I once told Joe that we should get a map of Bloomington and start putting pin marks in all the places that Eric had lived. That would be something to laugh about today. Another thing I remember about those Bloomington days is that we would always go to a buffet, and I could not believe how much one person could consume in one day. Excuse me, here, I'm having a problem. I'm not really computer good about all this. Well, years later, Dad retired, and we traveled. Before leaving Indiana, Di and Eric would use our home. They would come to our home for holidays. And a couple of times their friends would come by and stay with us as they were traveling to different gigs in the area. I saw one of Diana's friends, Moan, in Florida just a couple months ago. And she remembers sleeping on our couch. I saw friend Teresa the other day, and she said how she loved our hot tub.
Hot tub. Hot tub.
I saw Diane and Eric could bring their friends. I saw where they could bring their friends to us. I also remember Diana always looking for four-leaf clovers in our backyard.
Yes.
And her attempts to call the mourning doves as she hooted away. And they would answer her, actually. Years passed. We saw them once in a while, just like the rest of the family, but always kept in touch and loved hearing about their adventures. I believe Eric's love of traveling came from many fishing trips, with Grandpa McNary, as well as bike rides and vacations with Dad, Mom, and family. Then the dreadful call came this past year that Eric was very sick. We drove to Detroit to be with him and Diana as he prepared for his surgery. Of course, we all know the news was not good. We all cried and hugged and prayed for a miracle. One time I was alone with Eric while he was still in the hospital, and he asked me, "How do you die of cancer?" I couldn't answer him. How does one die from cancer? He was so brave. As we left the hospital, all the nurses were crying, and we left with that dreadful floor of the Henry Ford Hospital. They knew, but we were still waiting for that miracle. I came up once to be with Eric when he started chemo. He would be so sick, but nothing would keep him from working on his magazine, nor the book he wanted so to finish. I read in the Here magazine about Eric's frustrations with deadlines, and that certainly was true while I was there. He always wanted the information ASAP so he could turn month. A couple more things about that trip. One day, he was feeling pretty good, so insisted that we go someplace for lunch. We had such a great visit, and as loving and quiet as Eric was, as we left the restaurant, some dude was outside for a handout, money. And I remember Eric, sort of under his breath, saying, "Go get a fucking job." I just prayed we got out to our car and out of there as soon as possible. I also remember him insisting on taking me to the Apple store, as I had a new phone, which I was ready to throw in the toilet. As I was getting much needed help at the store, Eric disappeared. He was so sick, but just had to help me get that information I needed. He finally let me help drive, but I will never get him wanting to help me understand my phone and be able to use it. I still have that phone. Thanks, Eric. I'm sorry I'm taking so long. So now it comes closer to the holidays. Eric has been told there is nothing else that can be done. He calls me, which we talk often. I remember I was sitting on my patio with a couple of friends. He began to cry, and I cried. There were no words. On Eric's bucket list was to spend Christmas in Vero Beach. He and I made plans to fly down and spend the week at our timeshare. He loved the sound of the ocean, and I know that is where he wanted to be. His mom and dad, Nancy and Jim, sisters, Stephanie and Diana's parents, Lois and Jerry, we were all together. We cooked a special meal. We sang Christmas songs, and it was also special. Eric was so sick, but he could hear people laughing at poolside. He heard the ocean, and he was surrounded by family. I'm almost done. While we were at the Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit, when Eric was told about his cancer, one doctor said that if he did the chemo, he might live to Christmas. I believe Eric took it upon himself and waited 2 days after Christmas before dying. I also think in some way Eric planned to have his family with him, rather than being alone in the cold Detroit winter. He was running the show up until his passing. So love you, Eric. Your pain, your suffering has ended. You are in a better place and will always be loved and remembered by so many. And I do have one more short story. After Eric passed away, we were sitting with Diana and a few friends on our patio. All of a sudden, you have to understand we live in Florida, but all of a sudden an otter appeared in the lake. And Diana said, "Oh, there's Eric." So we named the otter Eric. And every once in a while, Eric comes back to see us. A few days after Diana left, one of our neighbors came over. I don't know where she went, but she brought us a stuffed animal, an otter, and she named it Eric. Well, Joe and I did not know what to say other than thank you. It was so hard to see the stuffed animal and know it was named Eric. Well, we kept it, and for a couple of weeks after that, I was in the glove compartment of our car, and I saw Eric's glasses that, sorry, Diana, I had promised to donate.
It's okay.
Okay. So, Eric the otter got Eric's glasses. Then it was on work. When Doc got ready to leave, we donated some of his clothes to Goodwill. However, Joe, Dad, he kept a t-shirt or a long sleeve shirt and wore it once in a while. One day, Dad asked me what Goodwill did with their drop-off items. I said, I have no idea. Well, he went to the closest Goodwill store to us, and there was the shirt. He repurchased it for 75 cents and brought it back home. So now Eric the otter, he sits on our dresser with his glasses and the shirt, and we were happy to see him every day. And I must admit that sometimes I even talk with him. Thank you.